Hello everybody. I guess you have the same question as I have. Is Pioneers of Pagonia a Z2 successor or not? To answer this question I had a look at the demo and played around a bit. For example, just placing some roads, which feels like it did in Z2 because you can build funny structures which are not efficient but funny to look at. But you can also place your roads pretty efficient, using the best layout for efficient transportation, just like you do in Z2, where you can just connect roads to shorten transportation distances. But first things first. When starting the game you start with a ship, which acts like an HQ, but an HQ which can only store out stock and not store in stock. And then you can just place your buildings or roads or whatever you like to and start the game nearly the same way you do in Z2. So for example, you place your foresters far away so they don't block any of your buildings by planting trees in their way, and then you just connect your roads so everything is transported to the HQ, and after it's connected to the HQ your workers will start working and your carriers will start carrying goods. So it's just the same like you do in Z2. You place your buildings, connect them with a road, place even more buildings, connect them, and everything just works fine. After that you may place some advanced buildings like a sawmill, which not only produces boards but also some firewood. So as you see, there are more buildings and more resources than you'd have in Z2. For example, there is some stone which you can mine by using a quarry, but that's not all. You can then place a stonemason which further processes your stone into, for example, border stones. After you've connected everything, you can just watch your carriers and settlers walk around your roads, transport everything and work on your buildings like you do in Z2. It takes some time until they are built, but they are pretty nicely animated, as you can see when having a look at this woodcutter. And military works a bit different. You don't just occupy territory by occupying a military building, but you need border stones and your soldiers to enlarge your territory. So it's not like in Z2 where you just occupy a military building and gain some territory. There's also something called an explorer's hut, which you can use to explore the map. You place a spot where they should walk to, and then they just explore toward that direction, which oddly feels like Northgard, and I will come to that later again. After you've made layout your settlement, you have to produce enough settlers and carriers so everything works fine, and that's one difference to the normal settlers game. It's really important to produce new settlers, you won't get them. So having a look at production, for example a military unit, you can produce it in the military academy, which needs an iron shield and chainmail, which you can produce in an armor smith, which needs iron and coal each. And you need a weaponsmith who can produce an iron sword, which also needs coal and iron bar. So where do we get that iron bar? You get it in smelting works, which needs iron ore and coal. So where do you get coal and iron ore? You get them in a coal hut and in an iron hut, which is much like in ZLS2, where you have a coal mine and an iron mine who produce coal and iron, which you then can refine in your iron smelter, which is then used in your armory to produce sword and shield, and then it's transported to your HQ, and if you have enough beer and settlers, you will produce soldiers. But in Pioneers of Pagonia there are much more base resources than you'd have in ZLS2, for example limestone and copper. So there are much more production trees than you'd have in ZLS2. So is Pioneers of Pagonia a ZLS2 successor or not? I really think that answering this question at the current state of the game is pretty hard, because there are still lots to come if you have a look at the roadmap. For example, there are neutral factions and objectives, or enemy camps and enemy types, which feels more like Northgard or the new Dune game than like ZLS2. So it is a mix, I think, between ZLS2 and ZLS1, and a bit ZLS6 and a bit Northgard. So, because trade systems, for example, this isn't something you'd have in the normal ZLS games, because, well, you just depend on your own economy and not on something else. And having neutral factions is also a hint that they are more influenced from other games like Northgard than the original ZLS games. But I really think that this could be a really great game, which might feel different than ZLS2, but will be great anyway. So I hope you had fun watching this, and it helps you to determine if you'd like to play it.